the mockery of the throne. The grand hall of the galactic citadel shimmered like the heart of a dying star. Thousands of delegates filled the obsidian amphitheater, scaled, feathered, and chrome-skinned beings from across the Empire's 50 sectors. In the center, elevated on a throne of plasma and crystal, sat King Valor the Ascendant, ruler of 1,000 worlds and master of the known galaxy. To the galaxy, the hall was a symbol of peace and order. To General Arya Voss, it was a cage made of arrogance. She stood before the throne in her crisp white Earth uniform, gold trim gleaming under alien light. Around her, the human delegation remained still, diplomats, officers, and aides, dwarfed by the towering alien representatives. Even here, among the galaxy's so-called civilized elite, humans were regarded as an experiment that had grown too quickly, too bold. Valor's voice boomed through the chamber, layered with synthetic resonance. So, this is the fabled warrior of Earth, the one who led the defense of New Europa, the woman who claims to represent her species' strength. Arya clasped her hands behind her back. I represent humanity's intent for peace, Your Majesty. That strength lies in restraint. The king chuckled, his armor humming with stored energy. Peace? From a race that still scars its own world? Spare us your sanctimonious lectures. We invited you here not to boast of Earth's delusions, but to measure your worth. The court laughed. The sound was cruel and synchronized, like machinery mocking life itself. Arya's delegation shifted uneasily, but she did not flinch. She had seen worse. She had walked through battlefields where silence fell only when a last cry for help had died. Valor gestured, and a massive royal guard stepped forward, a creature of metal and sinew. Its armor gleamed with shifting holograms, sigils of conquests older than humanity's recorded history. Let's play a game, the king said. Show us your famed human courage. You will strike my royal guard once. A single blow. If it moves him, his lips curled into a thin, mocking smile. I shall acknowledge that your species is not entirely ornamental. The hall roared with amusement. Cameras hovered overhead, broadcasting the spectacle across the Empire. To them, this was theater, a moment of humiliation for the newest species to crawl out of their gravity well and call themselves equals. Arya's second-in-command, Captain Idris, leaned close. General, this is a trap. I know, she murmured. But sometimes a trap must be sprung to reveal its maker. She stepped forward into the open ring, her boots echoing against the polished floor. The alien guard loomed before her, twice her height, a monolith of genetic engineering. It stared down with 4 unblinking eyes, its breath hissing through armor vents. Arya's gaze was calm, analytical. Every soldier's movement, every breath told her something. She could feel the crowd's amusement, their disbelief. She had lived her whole life beneath that look, from politicians, generals, even allies. You're too human, too emotional, too fragile. She planted her right foot lightly. Her body coiled like a compressed spring. Then, a sharp exhale, a flash of motion. Her leg snapped upward in a clean, disciplined strike. The impact echoed like a thunderclap. The guard staggered 1 step back. A dent, slight but visible, marred the perfect sheen of its chest plate. The hall fell silent for half a heartbeat. Then laughter exploded once more. Valor leaned forward, eyes burning with condescension. Is that all? That was your grand display of human might? A child's kick? Arya lowered her leg, unflinching. I gave you what you asked for, a single blow. The king threw his head back and laughed harder, his voice vibrating through the chamber walls. Weakness dressed in pride. How typical of your kind. A flicker of anger crossed her eyes, though her expression remained cold. She turned to walk back to her delegation. But the king wasn't finished. Tell me, General, he called after her, when the Empire finally claims your little blue world, will you kneel as gracefully as you just did, or will you attempt another one of your? He mimed her kick mockingly, eliciting more laughter from the court. Pathetic gestures of defiance? Arya stopped mid-step. For the first time, silence began to creep back into the hall. Her shoulders tensed slightly the only sign of restraint slipping. Her voice, when she spoke, was quiet, dangerously quiet. "Your Majesty," she said, turning back toward him, "there's an old saying on earth. Mercy is not weakness. It is strength restrained by wisdom." Valor smirked. "And what wisdom would a species of savages possess?" Arya's tone dropped lower, enough to know that mocking a warrior's restraint is to invite their wrath. The king laughed again, oblivious to the warning. "Wrath? You think you frighten me, human? You are nothing before the bloodline of the Ascendants." Arya stepped closer, the air around her shifting with the hum of her powered exosuit. "Then perhaps it is time your bloodline learned humility." Before anyone could react, she moved. Her second kick wasn't ceremonial. It wasn't restrained. It was powered by her full exoskeletal amplifier, channeled through precision and fury. The sound that followed shattered the illusion of superiority. The guard was launched backward, armor crumpling inward like paper. He crashed into the throne dais, sparks flying, the chamber trembling under the impact. The laughter died instantly. Valor's eyes widened, part disbelief, part rage. He rose from his throne, his aura flaring crimson. Arya straightened her uniform. "That," she said, voice calm and cutting through the silence, "was not weakness." The delegates stared, some in fear, others in awe. The image was already being broadcast across the Empire. A human general standing tall, the Galactic King's champion defeated at her feet. For the first time in centuries, the throne room of the Empire echoed, not with laughter, but with uncertainty. And General Arya Voss met the king's blazing eyes without fear. The second strike. The Galactic King reeled back only a fraction of an inch after General Arya's first kick, barely enough to move his chin, but enough to make every species in the council chamber fall into breathless silence. The king's glowing eyes flickered, not with pain but with amused bewilderment. Then he laughed, a deep, rolling, thunderous laugh. The kind of laugh a predator gives when the prey bares its teeth, thinking it matters. "A human strike?" he boomed, spreading his four-fingered hands wide. "Little creature, your kind's bones crack like sand under pressure. That was your best." Arya said nothing. She lowered her leg, straightened her white uniform, and simply breathed. Her shoulders rose and fell once, like a soldier centering herself before a duel. Her hair, still drifting from motion, settled against her collar. Behind her, the small Earth delegation trembled between terror and awe. Major Ruiz whispered, "General, please don't." "The treaty." Arya raised one hand subtly, palm facing him. "Stand down." The king continued laughing, wiping a non-existent tear from his luminous eye. "I have lived 9 centuries," he mocked. "I have shattered warships with my bare hands. And you," he pointed at her with a lazy, dismissive flick, "you dare to touch me?" Every alien official, Krolith, Veskin, Theron, shifted uncomfortably. The king was not only feared, he was unpredictable. His power was real. His species, the sovereign Vreeth, were living weapons. But the humans in the chamber, though tense, didn't cower. They watched Arya with something the aliens couldn't understand. Expectation. Arya stepped forward. "One strike doesn't measure a human, king," she said calmly. He chuckled. "Then give me another. Entertain me before I reduce your planet to dust." Ruiz gasped. Ambassador Hale mouthed something silently, likely begging, but Arya didn't look at any of them. She looked only at him. And this time, she didn't run. She walked. Slow, deliberate steps. Her boots clicked on the crystalline floor of the council chamber, echoing through the enormous dome like a countdown. The king leaned forward slightly, intrigued. "Brave," he mused. "Or foolish?" "Neither," she replied. "Just human." Then Arya vanished. To the untrained eye, she simply blurred. To the combatants and generals present, Theron, Veskin, even the cybernetic Krolith watchers, she moved faster than expected, faster than her file suggested, faster than any baseline human should have been capable of. But humans weren't baseline anymore. They hadn't been for decades. Arya struck from the left, then pivoted right mid-air, then twisted into a second kick, This one aimed not at his shin, but at the side of his head, with enough torque to send a shockwave through the chamber. The king barely had a moment to register movement before her heel connected. Crack! A sharp, crystalline sound shattered the silence. The king's head snapped sideways, his body stumbling one full step back. One step, for a sovereign Vreeth king, stepping back was equivalent to humiliation. No alien had ever forced him to retreat. No species had ever dared. The shockwave rippled outward, rattling the hollow panels, flickering the star maps along the walls, and sending tremors through the elevated seating tiers. Gasps erupted. Shouts followed. The king steadied himself, but his glowing eyes no longer flickered with amusement. Now they burned. Slowly, very slowly, he touched the side of his jaw. A faint crack in his armor-like skin began glowing, like a fissure in a star core. He whispered. Arya landed lightly on her feet, barely making a sound. She stood with both hands at her sides, relaxed, as if she had simply moved a chair or adjusted a screen. The king straightened. His body vibrated with restrained fury. His voice dropped several octaves, no longer performative, no longer amused. Struck me. Arya nodded once. Correct. My warriors, the king snarled, have ended entire civilizations for less. I'm not a civilization, she said. I'm a soldier. The king roared, a sound so deep that the chamber shields flickered. Some delegates covered their ears. A few fled, but the humans stood unmoving, partly out of shock, partly out of something else. Pride. Ruiz whispered, voice trembling. She actually heard him. Gods, she heard him. Ambassador Hale stared in disbelief. We warned them we were not what they thought. Arya didn't look away from the king. You call us weak, she said. But weakness isn't something humans fear. We've been weak before. We've lost before. But we never stay down. The king clenched his fists. The air around him distorted with raw energy, blue cracks of power spiraling off his arms. You dare lecture me? He growled. No, she answered. I'm teaching you something you refuse to learn. And what is that? He spat. Arya stepped forward, close enough that her reflection shone in his plated chest. That humans always strike again. The king's eyes widened, not with fear, not yet, but with the understanding that he had made a catastrophic miscalculation. Because the chamber outside the Earth delegation flickered with alerts, security drones registering an attack, commanders across the galaxy receiving emergency signals, fleets being notified. Humanity had not launched a war. Not yet. But the galaxy had just witnessed something far more dangerous. A human proving she could wound a god. And the Galactic King finally realized. If one human could do that, what could all of them do together? The galaxy wasn't dealing with prey. It was dealing with a species that did not know how to kneel. The strike that shook a throne. The throne hall of the Galactic King was built to make visitors feel small. Every pillar soared like a polished monolith. Every torch burned with blue plasma. Every guard stood genetically engineered, towering silent. And above them all, on a raised obsidian dais, sat King Vorixol, monarch of the Zareth Dominion, conqueror of 12 nebulae, breaker of empires. He had been waiting, amused, ever since the human envoy incident spread across the stars. The moment General Kara Halden entered the hall, the king leaned back on his throne as though receiving entertainment. Not a diplomatic challenger. Not the representative of a species that had crushed more than one empire in its infancy. No, just a curiosity to mock. Kara walked the length of the hall alone. No guards, no escort, no weapons. Only a pristine white human officer's uniform and the steady click of her boots echoing against stone. The Zareth soldiers stiffened as she passed. Their instincts recognized something their king did not, a predator in calm form. But Vorixol simply grinned. So, he boomed, voice shaking the columns. The species of soft bones and thin skin sends a single woman as its champion. Kara stopped at the base of the throne steps. This isn't a challenge, Your Majesty, she said evenly. This is accountability. You assaulted a human envoy. You declared contempt for humanity itself. I am here to offer you one chance to avoid what comes next. The king laughed. It filled the hall like thunder. You presume to threaten me? You presume to stand here with your fragile form and demand my fear? He leaned forward, eyes narrowing with cruel humor. I saw the footage. A human kicked one of my generals. Pathetic. Barely moved him. Kara didn't rise to the insult. She simply breathed, still, calm, watching him with the eerie control of someone who had already measured the consequences. Your general insulted Earth, she said. That weak kick broke 2 ribs. The king waved a dismissive hand. Your species is amusing, he said, always compensating with stories of invisible strength. He stood from the throne, descending the steps toward her. He was a full meter taller, muscles like chiseled stone beneath engravings of war victories. He radiated power and arrogance, so absolute it felt like heat. Come then, he said mockingly. Show your so-called strength. Give me this famous human kick. For the first time since entering, Kara tilted her head, expression unreadable. You want me to kick you? The smirk widened across his angular, ridged face. Go on. Strike me. I wish to see the extent of your power. The guards shifted uneasily. They had heard things about humans lately. Whispers spreading across outposts. Rumors of what Earth was becoming. But the king's ego smothered caution. Kara didn't sigh. She didn't posture. She simply lifted one boot, adjusted her stance with a precision born from both combat training and a lifetime of restrained patience, and kicked him in the abdomen. The strike was surgical, controlled, nowhere near her full power. It was enough to make the king grunt and stumble half a step. The hall gasped. Vorexul froze, stunned that he had moved at all. His guards stiffened, hands tense on plasma halberds. Kara stepped back, hand behind her. You asked, she said. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the king threw his head back and roared in laughter so loud the torches flickered. That was it, he barked. That was the legendary human fury. That was the best kick you can give. He was still laughing when Kara quietly said, that wasn't the real kick. His laughter stopped. She continued, voice cold as vacuum. That was the one I give to people I still consider civilized. The king's grin faltered. Explain. You assaulted a diplomat and laughed while doing it. You mocked humanity. You called our evolution accidental. You called our resilience a myth. Kara took one measured step closer. But your greatest error wasn't arrogance. It was assuming we would never hold you accountable. He scoffed, recovering his bravado. You dare threaten me in my own hall? You. His hand rose to push her away, dismissively, insultingly. It never reached her. Kara moved, not like a soldier, not like a human, but like a natural disaster given form. Her second kick, the real one, hit the king directly in the sternum with a sound like a meteor striking armor. The entire throne hall shook. Vorexul's massive body lifted off the ground and launched backward, slamming into his own obsidian throne so hard it cracked down the center like shattered glass. The air turned silent. Guards froze. Plasma weapons hummed nervously, but none dared lift one. The king lay half embedded into broken stone, struggling for breath that wouldn't come. Kara exhaled calmly. That, she said, was the human kick you should have feared. Shock rippled through the hall like a physical force. She had dropped a monarch, their monarch, with a single strike. Vorexul coughed blood, eyes wide with disbelief, struggling to rise but failing. He wheezed. Impossible, impossible. Kara stepped back, folding her hands behind her once more. Earth didn't want war, she said, but you made it inevitable. She turned her back on him, a gesture no species had ever dared, and walked toward the exit as alarms began to echo through the palace. Behind her, the king finally screamed, Guards, stop her! But none moved, because the galaxy had just witnessed something unthinkable. A human woman had broken a throne with one kick, and the Dominion had no idea how to survive what came next. The fall of a kingdom and the rise of myth. Alarms wailed across the Zereth Dominion's capital world, their shrill harmonics echoing through thousands of spires. Citizens across the metropolis froze as emergency glyphs flooded every hollow screen. King struck. Human agent. Lockdown immediate. But no one had ever seen an alert like this. Kings did not get struck. Kings did not bleed. And kings were never defeated by what the Dominion considered the weakest mammalian species in the galaxy. Yet the image seen, already leaking through the palace feeds, showed it clearly. General Kara Halden. One kick, a cracked throne, a monarch gasping for breath. It spread faster than the alarms themselves. Inside the palace, Kara walked calmly down the corridor as though she belonged there. Behind her, the throne hall remained filled with stunned guards who still hadn't decided whether to arrest her or kneel. Kara tapped her wrist comms. "This is Halden. Returning." A voice answered instantly. "Earth Command. General, status?" "Diplomacy has failed," Kara said. The king escalated. I responded. There was a pause. Then Command replied with the cold, steady certainty only humanity could wield when pushed. "Understood. Proceed to exfil. The fleet is already en route." Kara allowed herself the faintest exhale. Not relief, preparation. She turned a corner, moving toward the palace's outer platforms. But when she stepped into the open, she found herself facing a full battalion of Zareth royal guards forming a tight semicircle. Plasma halberds hummed like angry suns. The captain, a broad-shouldered Zareth with ceremonial markings across his armor, stepped forward. "Human," he called out. "By decree of King Vorakzul, you are—" Silence. The word didn't come from Kara. It came from behind the guards. Every soldier turned, supported by two trembling attendants, armor cracked, chest bruised, and rage burning behind golden eyes. The king himself limped forward. He raised one shaking hand toward Kara. "She will not leave this world alive." Kara met his gaze without flinching. Still arrogant, even now, Vorakzul sneered, baring fanged teeth. "You struck me, humiliated me. You shattered the throne of Zareth. No human lives after committing such heresy." Kara's voice remained level. "You attacked humanity first. When you kicked a human envoy, you declared war. I merely delivered the consequences." The king pointed at her, voice cracking into a roar. "Kill her." The guards hesitated, because they had seen what she did, because they felt something unfamiliar claw into their instincts. Fear of a human. Kara's stance shifted just slightly, feet planted, arms relaxed. "I don't want to fight you," she said. "But I will." The king snarled. "She is one woman. End her." That broke the paralysis. Dozens of guards surged forward, halberds raised. Kara moved. She was not superhuman. She was human at her absolute peak. Reflexes sharpened by training, instincts heightened by clarity, and determination fueled by the knowledge that Earth depended on her survival. Two guards dropped before they even realized she had stepped between them, pressure point strikes that disabled their limbs. Another lunged. She pivoted, using his momentum to fling him into the formation. A halberd slashed. She ducked, kicked the wielder's knee sideways, and sent him sprawling. But there were too many. A halberd clipped her shoulder, burning through fabric. She hissed but stayed moving. Another swipe forced her to retreat a step. She wasn't going to win by fighting them all. She needed timing. She needed an opening. And then, the sky split. A sonic tremor rolled across the palace as 9 human dreadnoughts dropped out of FTL, their silhouettes blotting out the sun. Gunmetal hulls gleamed with Earth's eagle insignia. Carrier bays opened like the wings of a vengeful titan. The Zareth guards froze in awe. Kara didn't. She slapped her wrist comms. "Perfect timing. I need a lift." A human dropship descended, engines howling, scattering dust across the platform. Its side ramp opened as Marines aimed rifles outward. A voice crackled through the ship's speakers. "General, move." Kara sprinted for the ramp. The king screamed, "Stop her!" and hurled a spear of raw psionic force, one of the Dominion's most feared abilities. Kara turned just in time to see the spear streaking toward her. Instinct took over. She used the same leg she had used to shatter the throne, planted it, and kicked. Her boot connected with the ethereal spear, dispersing it into harmless fragments of light. Even the humans in the dropship stared in awe. Kara stepped onto the ramp as it lifted. The ship ascended rapidly. The king collapsed to his knees, staring up in disbelief. You cannot defeat the Dominion, he rasped. Kara looked down at him, eyes cold. Your Dominion was defeated the moment you underestimated us. The dropship soared upward, joining the formation of human dreadnoughts. As it docked with the flagship Horizon Spear, Kara stepped aboard and saluted the bridge crew. General Halden reporting, she said. The admiral turned toward her. Your actions have united the entire Earth Alliance. The final war has officially begun. Outside the flagship's viewports, hundreds of human ships appeared as jump signatures lit the darkness, forming an armada unmatched in scale. Kara watched them with a calm that masked the wildfire inside her. Then let's end this, she said. The fleet surged forward. The Dominion trembled. And across the galaxy, one message spread like a storm front. Never underestimate a human, especially not a human woman who decides to strike back.